Okay. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Can you hear me? Let's see. I think I hear you, Deb.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay. I'm glad you were able to join me. Had to make a little of a bit of adjustment today. Had some things come up. So, um, we'll go tonight. And I wanted to touch on several things. Um, Now, I won't get to them all, I'm quite sure, but one of my favorite things here is employee performance, evaluating employee performance, and the employee evaluations and official and ones that we use, the annual performance review and things such as that, or even biannual or 6-month review, and discuss how sort of ineffective they are. And I got some good examples for it. But I'll be interested to hear your experience with it as an employee as well as a business owner as we move forward. I think one of the interesting things that students really learn or sort of have an epiphany with is the fact of how ineffective these employee reviews are, as evidenced by studies from S.H. SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resource Management. And there's little doubt that they are kind of ineffective. So, why don't you, since you're on here, why don't you share a little bit about how you evaluate your employees?
Well, when I sit and talk with them, I look over several different things. It's like I was telling in the discussion, we use everything as a learning tool. Now, that being said, when we, like, prime example, when they come up with an idea, like when we're painting the elevator pits, the elevator pits, if they come up with an idea on a different way to do it, and we let them try it, and it whether it fails or succeeds, if it fails, then what we do is we look to see what they've learned from it. If they see what failed, why it failed, we watch for their analytical processes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we actually do the reviews, and we sit down and talk, and we actually do them quarterly. We don't do them 4 times a year, but it's not your typical review that we're sitting down doing. When we sit down and talk, and it's usually me and it's the employee, and it's one-on-one, and it's a mutual thing. It's not just me analyzing what they've done or what they feel like, because I'll ask them, what have you learned over the last 3 months? Where do you think you've progressed in the last 3 months? And then they'll tell me. And then I'll tell them, what I have seen, where they have progressed or whatever. And I'll ask them what they think their weak spots are. And generally, they're harder on themselves than I am, because everybody's their own worst critic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask them to more or less rate, and I've got my fingers up in quotes, to rate my performance, where they think I could have done something different, or if they think, and I have a thing with my employees, if they don't, and this used to bug me really, really badly when I was working somewhere, when a supervisor would tell you to do something, and I'm one of those people that I have to have logic. Everything has to make sense to me. That's why I love numbers, because numbers don't lie and numbers make sense. But they would tell me to do something, but they wouldn't explain why, which they didn't have to, but that would bug the snot out of me. So I have a policy with my people that when I'll say do something a certain way, I try to explain it to them, or if they don't understand something I've said or understand, whatever, then they can talk to me about it. We try to pretty much have an open type relationship, which I think that sounds kind of odd, but and it's more, I like to think of it as family.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not the micromanager and stuff, and I make it plain to anybody that comes along. If you need somebody standing over you, or you need to be micromanaged, or you need your hand held, this is not the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
because I need people that are willing to be up and coming leaders, because when I expand, these are people that's going to be taking the position of management.
Sure. Deb, you hit on so many really very good things there, and something that I promote quite a bit. And I use the example, sometimes an employee's performance may be subpar. And okay, well, what's the reason for that? Maybe the directions were not clear, and that falls back on the supervisor or the manager, or whatever have you. So it really, for it to be effective, it really does need to be a two-way street, because if in fact an employee is not performing and not following through, and whatever the case may be, in your case, with pinning elevators and escalators and given the kind of tune-ups and things like that, I have no idea about that at all. But maybe the fact of the matter is, again, to use an extreme example, well, I understood that I was supposed to go to the south elevator, and now I'm hearing from you it was supposed to be the north elevator. So those directions were not, perhaps not clear, as something along, just if I use it for an extreme example. So unless we can be sure that a manager's directions and expectations are understood by the employee, it's really hard to hold that employee accountable for that. So it does need to be a two-way street. And therein lies part of the problem. And I'm harping on this all the time. We can see from the slide I have here from the SHRM survey, 90% of the systems do not work. And this is a big part of the reason why, because what you've implemented in your organization is rare. It doesn't typically happen that way in most organizations. For the school board that I work for, the big district, not Central Christian, but what I guess, for lack of a better term, called my main employer. And I'm not here to disparage anybody, or I don't represent them in my role right here, but it's public knowledge how they do the evaluation, and it's not a two-way street by any stretch of the imagination. There are opportunities for those who are being evaluated to have a rebuttal or to have some dialogue, but it isn't anything what I would call really worthwhile. I couldn't deny that it's not there, but it's not anything worthwhile, and therein lies a big part of the problem. Another issue is this idea that, and you mentioned, I think if I understood you right, you do yours 4 times a year. This idea that we do this once a year. All the psychological research out there, all the organizational development research out there tells you, and we're talking about motivation this week too, the feedback needs to be almost immediate. The most effective feedback is immediate, and it is non-evaluative. It is basically informational feedback. There is no question about this. This is not something that can be disputed. The research is out there. Organizational psychologists have seen this. Management has seen this. Business has seen this. So when I see an employee doing a preferred behavior, then I need to say, sort of praise him, give that verbal reinforcer, and it needs to be specific to the behavior. Hey, Bill, you're doing a great job. That's okay, but it's not as effective as, hey, Bill, I appreciate how you took time out to go make sure that machine, that you cleaned up that area so that we didn't have an accident by that machine. You saw something that needed to be done and you took care of it, rather than calling for a cleanup or whatever, and you took care of it. I want to thank you, because that could have actually caused an accident. That's a big deal. You may have saved us thousands of dollars. Thank you. And then you move on. So it doesn't have to be even a gift card or a dinner certificate or anything like that at all. Verbal reinforcer is really the best motivator. Now, you follow that up with some periodic recognition in some other way in a company meeting, or some gifts. Gift cards are great. Sometimes employees, well, hey, listen, you've done 3 times this week, I've caught you going extra, and you probably saved the company a lot of money because of Monday you cleaned up that area, Tuesday you hit the safety switch on the machine when it was not engaged, and something else, whatever the case may be. I'm going to let you leave an hour early today because I know you want to get home to your family. So again, that's going to cost you an hour worth of labor, but you know, if it works out, you know, why not do something like that? Those are the kind of things that get you the behavior you want. An employee evaluation, it does, you know, it does a few things. It documents if someone's not doing well. It helps you give direction. But one of the most important things, Debbie, and I think you'll agree, is to repeat desired behavior and extinguish undesired behavior. So when you're doing these things and recognizing the, you know, pro-social or desired behavior, you're going to get more of that, and it pays off in spades. So I mean, that cannot be overstated.
The one thing we don't do, we use hours as a tool for growth. And my philosophy behind this, and this is why I do the mutual evaluations, because I'm not perfect. Yeah, I may own the company, but I'm not perfect. And I have room to grow just like everybody else. So I need to know where my shortcomings are, because, you know, I know what I think they are, but I need to know how everybody else sees me from their point of view. I need to be able to understand. So ours are not based on, our evaluations are not merit based, because I mean, I do things for my guys constantly. I mean, I'm always kicking them a bonus, or let's say somebody was out of work and they're, you know, because of something, they were sick or whatever, you know, I tend to kick them some money or something like that, and I'm surprising them on Memorial Day with a cookout. But ours, we don't use our evaluations for like raises and stuff, because I look at how they're performing all the year, and if I see they're doing exactly as I've asked them to do, I'm going to kick them a raise regardless. I mean, it has nothing to do with per se our evaluations. Ours are strictly for personal growth and to succeed as a team. That's what we use ours for.
Excellent. I think you're on the money. And it looks like Letitia has joined us. I don't think she has her mic on or her video on, but hopefully she can hear us. You can go in the chat, Letitia, and say something if you'd like. We'll see if it's there, but I'm certainly glad to have you on here as we continue to go through this. So feel free to jump in there. And I appreciate that very much, Debbie. What you're saying, it's right in line with my philosophy. It's not really my philosophy, although, you know, I embrace it. I didn't invent it. I look out there and I see what works in theory, and I see who's applied it to see that it works. And there are companies that do apply this, and you know, it's not an exact science, but you know, you're right on the money, I think. You know, another thing that that I really do like to talk about in this area, and these concepts with employee evaluations, is the raters or the supervisors or the managers. They have to be fair and objective and unbiased, of course. And it pays, you know, the evaluator, the supervisor, to be unbiased, or at least to get an unbiased evaluation about the employee's performance. So unfortunately, I've heard horror stories, and I've been, you know, from even colleagues where I work, that they don't feel, at least, that the observations or the evaluations are fair and objective and unbiased.
They're not. I'll tell you that, they're not.
Right. I don't think I have to sell that hard to anybody. You know, I don't think anybody would disagree. And it's hard to be completely unbiased. And let's face it, you're never going to be completely unbiased. You may be a little more favorable to somebody, you may be a little less favorable. But the idea is, like a psychologist, you need to set those feelings aside, or if not, get someone else to come in and do it, as you said, Debbie. You know, with the numbers. You know, like, numbers don't lie. Let's deal with facts here, not even more than truth. And there's a difference between facts and truth. Like, let's see, if you're supposed to produce, you know, 100 widgets an hour, I can definitely tell if you're producing 100 widgets an hour. And you know, you've done 90, or you've done 110, or you've done 100, whatever. That's not going to lie to me. The subtlety that comes in is if I'm supposed to produce 100 widgets an hour, but the machine that you've given me to work with is not effective, or, you know, needs maintenance, then, you know, it's hard to hold me accountable for something that I don't have control over, which is another big component with employee evaluations beyond them being fair, and now I'm going to take this a little step further. This slide is exactly right. They need to be fair and objective and biased, but I'm going to take it again a little further. They need to be perceived as fair, objective, and unbiased by the employee and by anyone who'd come in there. So it's a subtle but important difference. So even if they are fair, let's say, but the employee doesn't feel they're fair, it's not going to be as effective. Conversely, if the employee does think it's fair, but maybe it's not, it's going to be kind of effective, but for the employee at least, but not overall for the organization. And that's a big conversation that we're not going to get into tonight, but real psychological stuff there. But the other thing, let's take the example. I use this quite often. To be a real estate broker or a real estate agent or a mortgage broker from around 1999 or so up till like 2007, 2008, when it fell off in about a week. You could really make a lot of money. You could sell a lot of houses. You could sell a lot of mortgages, and it was really, people were making money hand over fist in that profession. Even people who didn't have much of experience. I mean, people were going in. They decided to get their real estate license in 2004 because they saw what was happening. Without any experience at all, they're starting to make tons of money if they're just working a little bit. But then after the crash happened, you know what? If I'm a broker and I have a bunch of agents working for me, then I really can't say, gosh, how come you guys haven't sold any houses this week or this month or these 2 months? It wasn't their fault. There was no money to be lent. The market crashed, so they can't really be held responsible for that. Likewise, when the market was going crazy and it was inflated and it was a joke, you could say that they really didn't earn their money, although they did, but it wasn't like a typical market because we know the whole thing was a lie now. But these things are very, very important. And I can tell you with, the real estate example is one I've used a lot of times. School systems across the country, they're using evaluations and principals are going in and evaluating employees. I do fine. I get along very well with my principal. We're kind of both, on the leadership team at the school. But there's a lot of things in blogs and on Facebook and on LinkedIn and social media, and where it's very evident that a evaluator, a principal could say anything they want to say. It's a very short, like 15 to 30 minute observation of and that's just one example that's out there. But I say all that to say it would behoove the leaders of a company to give good and accurate evaluations. Just think about the downside to that. Like, are you really helping your company? Certainly not. If you're fudging the data to make someone look bad, you're going to lose that employee. Maybe you'll keep them out of a bonus or something like that. But you're going to, it's going to have a detrimental effect on the organization. Any thoughts?
One thing that as a small business owner, I am very, very fortunate. I am very discriminate in the people that I hire. I have been very blessed with I guess you'd call it a sixth sense. I have a project superintendent that I adore. He is literally my right hand. And we will conduct sessions and we'll go back and forth and discuss different applicants and whatever. And I'll tell him, I say, Lester, I really don't have a good feeling about this one, but if you want to try it, we will. And he says, are you sure? And I said, yeah, if you feel like you want to try this, because he tends to be more lenient than I am. So we'll try the person, and then I'll wind up letting the person go, or the person will wind up quitting or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he'll say, you were right. And I said, we still had to try it though, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't really use the evaluations for merit-based, because the rapport that we have with each and every one of the employees is phenomenal. It's like I said, we're just a big family. Mm-hmm. So our things are not biased. It's based strictly on truth. And like I said, that's because it is a small business and we are discriminate in the people that we hire.
Mhm. Mhm.
If that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big part of it. And I used to say that I've never read a bad resume or called a bad reference. That I have seen bad resumes now, and the references usually work out pretty well. But until somebody kind of gets in and gets to know, in your case, the family, Debbie, then how do you really know how it's going to fit in and all those kind of things? You make some guesses, you talk to the person, you get an idea, you do call references, you look at their resume, their experience and things such as that. But when you get in and see the personalities, that they're going to be working with, things hopefully work out, but yeah, they may not. And sometimes people are really good interviewers, and they know the right things to say or what have you. Something I'm not sure that you deal with, but I've been on many hiring committees now, and been a solo guy when people were so busy also to be the one to make that that decision for a position that's low level, if you will, for lack of a better term, on the organizational chart. And it's interesting. Sometimes we kid around. There'll be maybe 5 of us on the hiring committee going to hire for a position, and we hire someone, and then we get some negative comments from our colleagues who are now working with this person, and it's understandable. It's sad, but they'll kind of say, "Why'd you hire this person? Like this person doesn't know what they're doing, or it's not working out, it's not fitting." And unfortunately, in some instances, we kind of have to say, you know what? He's better than the other person that applied for the position that we interviewed. We only had 2 applicants. This was the best one. A lot of times people who aren't part of that process think that, well, I don't necessarily know what they think, but it seems they may think that there's a closet full of applicants and we just go in, no, that's not the case. We have to advertise for the job, and I think some other companies have this issue too. Yeah, this isn't an ideal fit, but we need somebody. We need someone to hand in your case, they hand the wrench over to the guy who's really doing the work. And this is the only person that applied. Or there were 3 people that applied, and 1 showed up for the interview. So I'm sorry this guy's late again, but that's the best we had at the time. And it's interesting. We're seeing a lot of that. And I'm talking to some other people that I'm coaching, and they're seeing it too. It's a real interesting thing in our economy now. I don't think people are, I know the unemployment's down, but there's still people that are out of work, and it's hard to find people to fill positions. So
especially, believe it or not, in what we do, because there is danger involved. It's very hard. I mean, the money is, I shouldn't be saying this, but I start everybody off at $15 an hour. Because I provide them with all kinds of safety gear, PPE. I mean, the whole 9 yards. We're really, really, really big into safety. And even once they're really eager once they hear how much it pays an hour, but once they get in there and start seeing what we do,
mm-hmm.
they're not quite as enthused as they were in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find people that are willing to work, is a better way to put it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're scared of hard work. I mean, yeah, I mean, I wasn't raised that way, but nowadays, I mean, people are wanting something for nothing. Yeah. I'm sorry, you won't get it in my company.
Yeah,
I pay you well, but I expect a fair day out of you.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I get it. And it looks like Letitia's got her microphone on. Letitia, can you hear us?
She has us on ignore.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we got any chat. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go right on ahead. We won't keep any much longer. It is Sunday night, for crying out loud. But I did want to hit on those topics. This McClellan, he's a big deal. You should know the name. It's not, he talks about the need for achievement. And I want to get back to the motivation that is pretty much, something I definitely want to say before we get off here. And you talked about money and that should sort of motivate people. You kind of allude to that, and to an extent it does. Money is what we call a hygiene factor. And okay, what's a hygiene factor? What that means, it's in terms of the psychological term that it means that we need it to a certain extent. The lack of money is a demotivator. But once we kind of have enough money that we're able to sort of pay our bills, and we don't really have to worry. In a perfect world, we'd pay people just enough money so they didn't have to worry about it. That's the quote that goes on all the time. So if I didn't have to worry, like I know I'm making enough money to pay my mortgage, pay my car payment, my insurance, and have groceries and those, and put money back for vacation and things like that, then I can just take it off the table. But without that, it is problematic. But money is not the biggest motivator. What motivates employees, there are three things, and there's research done on this over and over and over and over again. Three things. It's purpose, mastery, and autonomy. And Debbie, you mentioned at least autonomy, before. And as a manager, when I've been more in a management position in my career, I really want to give my employees autonomy, because I don't want to manage them. That's stressful, hard work. I don't want to do that. When I would hire times I've hired somebody, you're an adult, I'm an adult. These are the goals. This is the expectation. If you need help, come and see me. Otherwise, I expect you to be there at the end of the day. And, after, so of course, adequate training, and of course, explaining what we need to do, and maybe even going over the objectives along the way to get to that goal, and just so that they can kind of monitor themselves if that's the case. But after that, that's it. So employees, and there's been, like I said, study after study. You can look up Daniel Pink. He's done a lot of YouTube videos on this. He's written several articles, journal articles. And we've done this in America. We've done this in India. We've done this all over the world, Canada, in Europe as well. And if an employee has purpose, okay, now I'm doing something. And sometimes that's part of a leader's job, to explain purpose. Debbie, in your case, if somebody's just kind of, the mechanic is kind of working on the elevator or the escalator, not, you know what? Let me just explain to you what you're doing here. Your good work here is going to make it possible for people to move safely. There's going to be children on this elevator or escalator. There's going to be men and women. There's going to be people who are expecting children, and people who have places to go. Your job is very important. You have a real important purpose here, and that sort of instills in them, okay, that I do have to watch out what I'm doing. I'm contributing to society. I'm contributing to this building, and I'm contributing to the economy, and so that's a purpose. And then what? Okay, I need to get this done. I don't need somebody looking over my shoulder. I need the autonomy to do it. And then the other, I did mention mastery, I believe. Mastery, being able to get good at something and get better at something, and then get good at it and get better at it. It's a big motivator. It's a big motivator. Leticia, I see you're popping up here without a camera or anything. Can you hear us?
No, can you all hear me?
Yeah,
yes,
I can hear you now. So I hear you. How are you?
Okay, I can hear you all. All right, how are you? I'm feeling much better.
I'm so happy. Yeah, you sound way better than the other day. About a week ago, I guess we spoke, right, on the phone, I think. And yeah.
Yes, sir.
You sound spry now.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad you're on here. I'm glad you're able to make it. And like I said, this is being recorded, and I'm going to put it on YouTube in a little bit. But I hit the major points I wanted to hit. Do either of you ladies want to add anything?
The one thing I will say is that hierarchy we did at our meeting at the cookout on the 28th, I'm going to have every one of my employees do one of those.
Oh, that's terrific.
I think that would be phenomenal for them.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear how that goes. Please share with us how that goes, Debbie.
I will.
Fantastic.
I will.
That's I love to hear stuff like that when students take something from a course and take it and apply it to their life, their job, their career, whatever the case is. I'm jumping up and down inside right now. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, because when I did it, because those pits are nasty. They are horrible. They're toxic, the whole 9 yards. And, it kind of surprised me a little bit, which the monetary part of it is good. The monetary compensation is good, but it's more the personal satisfaction of a job well done. And I think when we do the hierarchy, I think the next pit that we do after that, because we only do 1 or 2 a month, I think the next one we do, I think we're going to do it in like the way the steps were in the hierarchy. I think we're going to discuss those steps as we're actually doing the pit. And I'm going to see what kind of feedback we can get from that.
Oh, that's fantastic. That'll be good. I can't wait to hear about that. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Good.
You're welcome.
Letitia, anything before we go?
No, sir. I'm like Miss Pat-Man. I'm eating all the pebbles up right now.
That's a good one. You ladies have ended this
Yes,
on a
sir.
very, very good note. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and have a quick word of prayer, and I'll let you ladies get back to your Sunday evening and families and things like that, if it's okay. Father, thank you so much for this wonderful blessing. I thank you for Letitia. Thank you for Debbie and all the students in the class. I have a special prayer for them, Father, that you watch over them, continue to guide their steps. Bless them in their efforts as they move forward, pursuing your purpose in their life. And help me to be a good teacher for them. Bless my efforts that I can share with them and guide them along the way and be a resource for them and help them as they move forward also and as I serve in this capacity. Also, I ask you with their families and my family that you bless our families in a special way also as they support us in our endeavors here at Central Christian College of Kansas. Father, we just praise you, and again, we're grateful for this opportunity, and we ask your blessings on us and ask that we can share those with others. All these things we pray in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, ladies, have a good Sunday evening and a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Good night.